Okay, how am I gonna get this on here? Wait, I got an idea. There's gotta be a better way to do that. As it happens, there are 5 different ways to get your phone to stay on the handlebar mounts. We've got SP Connect, we've got Rokform, we've got RAM, we've got Peak Designs, and then last but not least, we have a channel sponsor, Quadlock. And today, we're gonna shoot all of these out because I've been using Quadlock products for a while, and it's time to see whether or not they still hold up to the competition. Now, it is worth pointing out that Quadlock is a channel sponsor, and you are well within your rights to be skeptical about what I have to say about these. I'm gonna be honest, like I always am, but there's always somebody down in the comments who's like,
"Oh, you can't say what you really mean about it because you're sponsored."
As it happens, I actually talked to the folks at Quadlock, and I told them I was gonna make this video, and they were like, yeah man, go ahead, say whatever you want. That just goes to show how confident Quadlock actually is in their product, and it takes balls because I'm gonna put it up against 5 of the most popular phone mount combos out there, and let's just dive on in with the first one. The first of our 5 contenders is Rokform.
Rokform and I go way back to the Yami Noob days, where I installed dozens of mounts on dozens of bikes. I've even used them personally for several years. The mount is all anodized aluminum, and they have a polished version for the chrome dads out there, and it costs $120. The case is $50, and from personal experience, I know it can take a beating. The vibration dampener is another $30, which means that you're looking at $200 before tax. Also, doesn't this mounting solution look somewhat familiar? When it comes to installing it, I lost patience using the hand tools they provide since little torque wrenches like this never seem to stay seated. I also had to assemble the vibration dampener. Not a big deal, but a little bit annoying. Then I subjected the whole assembly to a vertical drop of a little over a meter 3 times using elastic rock straps to subject the phone to as many violent changes of direction as possible. I'm pleased to report that it didn't fall off, and when I tried to rip the mount off, the plastic in the back of the case would give way long before the mount let go. But for that price, it damn well better.
Rokform gets the points for having the biggest and beefiest case, but I will say, this magnet that they're so proud of that sticks to a bunch of stuff also interferes with the stylus on my phone. That completely makes the bottom half of the screen on my cell phone completely useless. If you're going to use a stylus, you have to take your phone out of the case, which is dumb. Alrighty, let's pop the phone on the Rokform mount here. Come on. Are you gonna be a problem? What's the matter with you? Oh, I have to turn it 90 degrees, which makes my setup, which means my setup is getting in the way. Annoying Rokform. Okay. There we go. There. That's better. Now, like I said in the VO, I have a ton of years of experience with Rokform products. And I gotta say, this is one where I've never had any worries about it coming off with or without the locking vibration dampener. It's always stayed right where I needed it to, regardless of whether I've been on road or off. However, because you're using friction and a magnet to hold your phone in place, when you're not using the vibration dampener, you do get to a point where you have to replace the case because otherwise it will start to loosen its grip on the mount. Not something that I would like to see from a $200 combo. Another thing that is worth pointing out, I have only had one phone lose its camera synchronization and stabilization, and that was because I had it on a Rokform mount without using the vibration dampener. So when you're going with Rokform, you have to drop the full $200, otherwise you may damage your cameras. Next up is one I've seen a lot, and that's Peak Designs.
Peak Designs has recently sold a lot of backpacks.
It's Luigi time.
But before they were considered adjuster chic, they were just a humble company started up on Kickstarter, which makes them a rarity because they actually made it off of Kickstarter. Their motorcycle gear is buried among bags, camera gear, and other phone stuff. Their locking mount is $100. It's metal and it's black. The cool thing is that it's the only one that has a built-in vibration dampener. Their cases are anywhere from $16 to $60, but mine was $40 when I bought it. It took several months to show up, and when it did, it was clear that I was shipped a return unit. The case itself is pretty thin, and I wouldn't feel comfortable dropping my phone on concrete with it. Install was painless, and it's got a handful of adapters, and in the drop test, it didn't let go. But when I yanked on it, there was a definite pop somewhere. I'm not sure what broke or let go, but something definitely wasn't happy. That said, it only let go when I pressed the button.
When I first opened the Peak Designs case, I was a little bit underwhelmed, but honestly, this thing has grown on me a little bit. I think the cloth feel is a little bit silly, but the magnet that's in here is strong enough to hold your phone to a metal surface.
No, it isn't. Unless you're attaching your phone to something in zero gravity, don't trust this magnet.
Peak Designs definitely takes the cake for the easiest to place on the handlebars, but you do kind of have to get a feel for it. So once it's on there, but, you know, you gotta make sure you line it up just right. There's no twisting, there's no nothing, you just smack it on there, and it's held in place. And there's plenty of wiggle from that vibration dampener. I'm not gonna lie, Peak Designs is the one brand that I had the lowest expectations for, and I'm pleasantly surprised by the quality of their kit. After seeing how hard it tried to hang onto my phone when I was yanking on it, I have no issues going down a nice bumpy road like this. However, would I want to go off-road with it? Nah, probably not. You can kind of tell it feels a little bit like Portlandia, Triumph, Bonneville, Cafe Racer vibe. I've always sort of gotten that impression from Peak Designs. Not that I'm saying there's anything wrong with that. Again, it feels like it's aimed more at that kind of customer, and that kind of customer probably stays on the street. But my personal misgivings aside, this is a great product.
Now, number 3 is one I've always wanted to try out. It's SP Connect. I've seen these on a ton of bikes, but I've never actually seen them on the shelf in a store.
SP Connect is the provider for the branded KTM mounts, so there's that. The Pro mount I ordered cost $70. The vibration dampener was $30 and the case was $40. But for this being the same $140 as the Peak Design, I am distinctly underwhelmed. The case is weak sauce, and I'll show you in a minute. And it is also worth pointing out that I accidentally ordered an S24 Ultra case instead of the S22, but the bodies of these phones are nearly identical, so aside from a little weirdness, it fits just fine. This is another where install was pretty painless, but the drop tests were a little nerve-wracking. After the first one, I noticed the phone had shifted a few degrees because there's nothing holding the thing in place but friction. It didn't fall off, but it felt like it really wanted to. Also, when I tried to rip it off the mount, it felt like I was just a few pounds away from pulling the entire connection assembly out of the back of the case.
This one has been a supreme disappointment. I'm stunned at how expensive all of this SP Connect stuff is and how weak this case is. You can basically fold it in half, and their logo on here is so poorly put on that it's actually started to crack as I've been taking the phone in and out. I'm really shocked at how crappy this case is.
If you're wondering if the magnet is strong enough to make up for this, kinda, I guess, maybe. I mean, it does hold it onto my toolbox, but I don't trust my phone in the damn case anyway, so no, it doesn't matter to me.
Now, because of SP Connect's performance in the drop test, I can't say I'm particularly thrilled about going for a ride with it, but, you know, it is on there. Yep, it's on there. I hate to feel like I'm ragging on the SC Connect unduly, but, I mean, seriously, there's nothing holding my phone onto that handlebar but friction and faith. Like I said, it didn't come off during the drop tests, so it shouldn't come off now, but I can't say I'm particularly confident. Also, of the vibration dampeners, This one does the least dampening because it has the least amount of wiggle room among them. When it comes to the vibration dampeners, you actually want a certain amount of jiggliness to it. You want your phone to be able to wiggle because that means it's transferring less energy to the phone, and this is doing the least amount of wiggling. This really feels to me like it's designed for somebody who's on a street bike that is very, very smooth. Something like an inline 4, like touring bike, like an FJR, or maybe a V4, like a Interceptor or something like that. If you're on one of those bikes with this thing, you're probably going to be okay. Probably. You just better hope that you don't go down a bumpy country road like this, because I'm slowing way down, because I'm not entirely sure my phone's going to stay on there, and this is not how I wanted to upgrade.
I mean, I guess this is a phone case, kinda. It's mostly just a claw, but it's the evolved form of the Ram claw, and it's number 4.
When I was but a humble beginner rider with naught but 2 pennies to rub together, I started with the Ram X mount. It really pushed my buttons. I'm not joking. It would push the volume buttons up and down all the time, so I'd either be listening to nothing or going deaf completely randomly. Luckily, the new claw mount has channels for the side mounts so that you can make sure you're not going to have that problem. Ram is the cheapest, with the holder available on Amazon for $28. The ball mount is also $28, which is a little bit weird. And the connector arm, which is not included, costs you $12 for a grand total of $68. Yeah, it's cheap, but boy oh boy does it feel like it. You could tell me that this was a no-name rainforest brand from some factory in China and I would believe you. It was a little bit like assembling an IKEA cabinet since I had some parts left over at the end, and I wasn't entirely confident in the drop test, but it did hold on fine. When I tried to rip my phone out, I noticed that it has these little tabs that make it impossible, but I really wouldn't trust this if you're going off-road.
Now, obviously, there's no actual case for the Ram mount because it's just a claw. It can fit anything that you want to put in it, and I suppose that's the beauty of it, is that you could just use whatever case you'd like. But when you think about how this is $70 and you don't get a case, the value proposition starts to come down a little bit, because you're going to have to buy a case for your phone anyway. So why not get one that integrates with your motorcycle handlebar mount instead of having to get something separate? Let's face it, you're not actually sacrificing anything by getting a moto-specific or a handlebar-specific phone mount case combo. So at the end of the day, yeah, this is cheaper, but you still have to buy the case. So, I don't know. I also find while I can't pull this thing out, it is really easy to lift the phone up. Woohoo! And I almost ejected it. So, there you go. I'm going to just set that in there, and I'm going to end this vlog right there, because that in and of itself is the entire problem that I have with this. That makes this the second Ram product that has nearly ejected one of my cell phones. So, yeah, next.
And then, of course, we have Quadlock, who has been a channel sponsor for over a year, and we're going to see whether or not I'm keeping them around.
Quadlock is basically a household name when it comes to motorcycle phone mounts, and I consider them to be the industry standard. Their plastic mount is $50, but they have an all-aluminum one for $70. Their case is $40, and the vibration dampener is $20, which makes them the cheapest of the case and mount combos at only $110. Maybe it's because I've been installing these on bikes for like over 2 years now, but this was the most painless of the installs, and in the drop test, it held up fine. When I tried to rip it off the mount, it held on more securely than the Peak Designs, the SC Connect, and the Ram mount, but I could tell it would fail before the Rokform did. That being said, you'd have to pull way harder than I can to do that.
The Quadlock case is actually a really good middle ground, I think, between all of these. It's got the low profile of something like the Peak Designs with a little bit more protection, but it's not nearly as bulky as the Rokform, which kind of serves as like the motorcycling version of an OtterBox. The Quadlock case is sturdy, it's thin, and it's got enough impact protection that I'm not worried about dropping my phone in this thing. And if you're wondering why I'm so confident, this is my old Quadlock case. This thing has been through hell and back, and my phone survived just fine. Just in case you're curious, this is the phone right here. The battery died, but it's okay.
Magnet-wise, I will be honest, I would like the Quadlock to have a slightly stronger magnet. It's capable of staying on my toolbox, no problem, but it could do with just a little bit more strength if you've got thinner gauge metal.
The beauty of the Quadlock is I've had it on for so long that it's actually really kind of easy for me to do with one hand. Oh, or maybe not. I have had a lot of practice. There we go. Another nice thing about it is once it's in there, it's in there. Quadlock is the only one other than Peak Designs where their base model handlebar mount actually comes with a mechanical locking device, which is really nice. You don't get that with the Rokform unless you go with their ball mount or the vibration dampener. So it's really nice that you just know your phone is staying on there no matter what. I've ridden with Quadlocks on-road, I've ridden with them off-road, I've ridden on them cross-country, just around town, on the highway, twisty roads, no matter what, I've never, ever had an issue with it. And this is one of the few where, right out of the box, I've never needed the vibration dampener. I've never had an issue with my camera stabilization getting messed up using the mount alone. Now obviously your mileage may vary and the vibration dampener is only $20. That is the very definition of cheap insurance. Now you guys have seen the Quadlock mounts in action on the channel for like a year and a half, so I'm gonna save a little bit of time here and let's pull it back in the garage and let's talk about why I truly think the Quadlock is the best option for you.
Let's wrap this up nice and fast for you. If you're a dad from the 1990s and you still use a belt clip for your phone, you're probably a RAM mount user and you should really consider upgrading because this is lame. And as you saw, I was just fiddling with it a little bit on the bike and it tried to eject my phone. And it's really not as cheap as it seems at first glance because all of this costs more than just the basic Quadlock mount. Speaking of costing more, Rokform is outrageously expensive. I'm sorry, they are just way too expensive for stuff that is done cheaper by everything else here. Yeah, they do make the most sturdy of the mounts, but it is just holding your phone to the handlebars. You don't need to be this overbuilt, and it doesn't need to be this expensive. I suppose if you're motorcycling through a nuclear apocalypse and, you know, there are no smooth roads anymore, the Rokform might come in handy, but, I mean, still, it's too expensive. Then we have the SP Connect, and if you take nothing else away from this video, do not buy an SP Connect product. I am stunned at how bad this setup is. The case is pathetic. The mount barely holds onto the phone. I did not feel confident having my $1,000 phone sitting on the handlebars going 50 miles an hour because it just needs to turn 90 degrees one time and it's gone. Plus it's just using friction, a lot like the base Rokform mount, so it will wear out over time. Also, Rokform, your stuff is so expensive, but it's based on friction, which means you will have to replace it at some point. That is just dumb. And then we have Peak Designs, and this one was an honest surprise to me. I was not expecting it to be as high quality as it is. Me personally, I would like just a little bit more holding my phone in place than just two little baby tabs on there. It just doesn't feel that confidence inspiring. It's also $140 to the $110 of the Quadlock. And that brings us to Quadlock, which has all of the best features of all of the rest of the phone mounts because honestly, they're the original. They're the genuine article. Rokform even liked what they did so much they copied the exact same locking mechanism here that Quadlock has. No matter what kind of riding you're doing, I feel confident recommending Quadlock to you because they are the cheapest of all of these, especially when you consider you have to buy a case to go with the RAM mount. But you aren't sacrificing any kind of quality. And if you want a metal mount, they've got one for you. That being said, I've never had an issue with their plastic one. And I feel a lot more comfortable now keeping going with Quadlock, having tested all of these, because I can genuinely say they are my choice. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Have you tested any of these out for yourself? And while you're down there, there will be a link to Quadlock's site so you can check out everything that they have to offer. And a huge shout out to Quadlock for continuing to support the channel. And on that note, guys, catch you in the next one. See you later.